Welcome, welcome. I think I'm live. I feel like I always start my live streams exactly the same way. If I went back and watched them all, it would just be very much the same. Welcome, welcome. Anyways, here I am. I am live. I'm going to just stall for a few moments just so that I can make sure that anybody who was waiting for me to go live has time to refresh their screen and see it. So we today are going to be talking about building social currency in your family dog. And a lot of you guys might be like, social what now? What is that? So if you are in the membership, you know that I've been talking about this. I've been presenting a little bit of what this is all about already. So you had a little bit of a preview, but if you are not in the membership and you got my secret YouTube link to be able to watch this, then this might be a completely new concept to you. So not to worry, I'm going to explain it. It's not as complicated as you would think, as the fancy words might say. I'm just going to move my water so I can see my screens here. All right. I think that's enough stalling. If you are here and you're watching on Facebook, I believe there should be a link in your description that you have to click on in order to give Facebook permission to share your name with me. So that way, if you have comments or questions, I know who's talking to me. Otherwise, you can still put the comments, questions in there, and I will still answer them, even if I don't know who it is. So if you're in the membership, welcome. This is another one of our months, our monthly themes that we have in March here. And if you're not in the membership and you're watching on YouTube, welcome to you as well. Okay. I don't usually share these on YouTube. Usually it's just in the membership, but I thought this was a really important topic. And I wanted to make sure I at least shared it to people on my email list, people that have been following me for a while, people who, I know, are sort of in line with the way that I train and the way that I teach, stuff like that. So if you're here and you want to let me know, that would be awesome. Otherwise, I'm going to jump in. So let me share my screen here. Okay, so again, this is what we're talking about today. Building social currency with your family dog. So we'll be exploring the deposits and withdrawals of your relationship with your family dog. Okay, so let me click the right buttons here. All right, so what is social currency? Defined, there are a few different definitions out there. I first heard of the term from Kim Brophy, who runs Family Dog Mediation, who started that whole project, big project. And I really liked the term. I had never heard it before. I don't think it's often used in the pet world, but I think it has been used for a while in the human world. So basically, it is the value and influence an individual gains from their relationships and interactions with others. Okay, so that's the actual definition. Basically, what it means is, are you someone worth listening to? Like, what is your worth to your dog? What is your worth to your husband or wife? What is your worth to your friends or your kids? How much do they value you and your relationship? Okay, I will today be talking a little bit more about the human side of things in the beginning. So bear with me. And then we're going to bring it over to the dog side of things. As you know, from stuff I've taught in the past, I'm a big believer in the importance of making sure we're addressing the human side of the leash as much as, if not sometimes more than, the dog side of the leash, because the dogs usually come in and they're like a little more happy-go-lucky, or they let things go a little bit more. They live a little bit more in the moment, although obviously there can be anxieties of the past. However, I think when the human side of the leash is involved, there's a lot more being brought to the table, whether it's, baggage from the past, whatever it is. So I do find that it's really important to make sure that we're addressing the human side of the leash as much as, again, if not more than, the dog side sometimes. Again, the dogs will usually follow along with us if we have it a little bit more together, which is easier said than done. Again, so being someone worth listening to, that's what we're aiming for here. Okay. So how does social currency apply to dogs? So that was kind of the human definition. So bringing it to the dog world, I wrote it out as social currency encompasses the trust, respect, and rapport that a dog builds with individuals in its social environment. So what does that mean? Okay, so that basically means, like if you have a lot of social currency, then you probably have a lot of respect from others in the environment. You probably have a lot of rapport with others in the environment. So if I have a lot of social currency with my dog Willow, then she's going to be more likely to listen to me. If I don't have a lot of social currency, she's not going to trust me as much. She's not going to respect what I'm asking her to do or respect, my space or what I need from her. And I'm not going to have that reputation with her that I want, right? It's kind of like, and I'll talk about this again, but it's kind of like being the cool kid on the playground, right? Like you want people to want to be near you. You want your dogs to want to be near you. Sometimes our dogs want to be near us a little too much, and that's not unusual. However, there's a different type of I want to be near you, not because you have food, not because you pay me all the time. It's more because they want to be near you. They want to be around you. They feel most comfortable with you. Okay, so how can we achieve this? 3 main ways that I'm going to break down is through predictability, attunement, and support. Okay. All right, let's break those down a bit. So before we do that, a couple different types of social currency. There's the more transactional type, which I'll talk about, and then there's the relational type of social currency. So transactional type, that's more typical of what we tend to see in the normal training realm with dogs, right? So it's like, if you sit for me, I'll give you the cookie. If you come to me, then, you'll get a treat. If you let me put your harness on, then we can go for a ride in the car. So it's like, if you do this, then you can have that, right? So we're basically requiring something of them in order for us to be willing to give, right? So that's very transactional. And I think there has to be room for that, right? We don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, as they say. Some of that does work because we're reinforcing behavior, right? And that has worked. That has worked for many years. However, number one, that is not the only type of social currency. And I'd argue that it's probably not the best type of social currency. Now, if you had asked me 10 years ago, or even honestly like 6 years ago, which of these I find to be important, I might have, honestly, I probably wouldn't have even thought about relational. It just wouldn't have entered my mind. I would have been more of like, we ask him to do something, we give him a treat. I think it's positive reinforcement. It's not like I'm punishing the dog, right? So I would have thought that's enough. That's good. I'm doing the right thing. I'm being a good trainer. I'm being a good person. And that's true because I am using positive reinforcement. However, there is an argument that can be made for, is that coercive to our dogs? Are we saying, if you let me cut your nails without moving away, then I will give you this treat, right? So then the dog, you have a really treat-driven dog. Let's say we have a lab. Okay, so I'll stick with the stereotype. We have a really treat-driven lab, and they really hate having their nails cut, but they really love that food. And if you say, stay still, I will give you this food, but I need to cut your nail first, they may stay still enough because they're so fixated on that food. But are we building trust in them? Are we building social currency in them? Maybe not, because we're kind of just like coercing them. Like, here's the candy, it just always reminds me of like a stranger with candy and kids and all that stuff. So it's not always a healthy way to do it. So you really want to look at some other forms of social currency. And the other big one is relational social currency. Okay. So we're going to dig more into that one as we move forward. I just want to check one thing, make sure we're good on the back end here. Okay. If you're here and you want to just let me know that you're like here and you're seeing things and hearing things, just that would be awesome. Because I do see some people are watching, which is good, but no comments yet. So I just want to make sure everyone's good. All right, continuing on. So let's jump into relational social currency. So that is, really kind of having that back and forth sort of relationship where we're really a team, as opposed to, I need you to do this for me. So I find that the transactional relationship is kind of like top down, and then the relational is sort of bottom up. And I always want to go bottom up or inside out, right? Rather than outside in. Okay. June, perfect. Here and learning. Awesome. Okay. So moving on, I keep hitting the wrong button. All right. So again, building that relational social currency, we're going to be looking, this is where we'll be looking at the attunement, the predictability, and the support that we can offer for our dogs. Okay. So what is attunement? This one's one that we'll talk a lot about. So I'm going to give you the definition and then I will explain it. I'll break it down. Attunement, the state of being closely aligned or in harmony with another person, animal, or situation. Okay, so when referring to dogs, basically it means being sensitive and responsive to their body language, their vocalizations, their behavior in order to effectively communicate and meet their needs. Okay, so in slightly simpler terms, although that wasn't too bad, attunement is basically, you know, am I paying attention to you? Am I, and not just, you know, the big things, but am I attuned to some of the smaller behaviors that you're offering me that let me know how you're feeling? Okay, so that's where we really do have to become body language experts, especially on your own dog. Doesn't have to be on all dogs, although it's pretty general. But, you know, if you know that your own dog, when they start to get a little bit nervous, maybe your dog acts out. Maybe they jump more. Maybe they get more vocal. Whereas another dog might do a little bit of like pulling back or avoiding eye contact. Or last night I was working with a dog virtually who started to get nervous, and I could see the switch on the camera of, you know, I want the treats. I'm thinking I'm learning. I'm happy. And then the person made just one slight move where they just kind of like looked at the dog a little bit too much. And you could just see that shift in the dog of like, ooh, I don't know, I'm getting a little suspicious. And then you could kind of see it build up from there. But the sooner that we can get attuned to those smaller things, the easier it's going to be to help our dogs, right? And then they're going to trust us more. We're going to have more social currency. So that piece is really, really important. I think they're all important, the attunement and, you know, the support and all of them, all three. But I really think the attunement, I don't know, I can't say. I think they're all really important, but I really think the attunement is important. So we'll leave it there. Okay. All right. So there is a concept in the human world of, well, bids for connection, but the concept came from the Gottmans and the Gottman method, Gottman Institute. If you've heard of the Gottmans, let me know in the comments. I'm just really curious to know how many of you guys have heard of them and their work with human relationships. They started off by working with couples, marriage or marital couples or people in a relationship romantically. And then they moved to working with all kinds of relationships and working with kids and all that sort of stuff. So this does apply to all kinds of relationships. But I think they were first experts in the marriage realm or the romantic relationship realm. But the concept is that lots of concepts that they have. But the one that I really want to focus on as far as attunement goes is the bids for connection. Okay. So basically what they teach is that you are always throughout your day with any other being, okay, whether it's your dog or another person, a friend, a romantic partner, your kids, certainly your kids do this all the time. Everybody's always making bids for connection or bids for attention. They're making these bids, right? And the bid might be, you know, like, oh, did you see the new shirt I got, right? Or it could be, and we're going to talk more about this, but the classic example is like, oh, look at that pretty cardinal at the window, right? Or, you know, I have a big presentation coming up and it's stressing me out. So it could feel casual, but it's something that you've said. And now what's the response is what you're looking for. So there are three choices that somebody could make to respond to you. And they can be unconscious choices, but there are three ways it can go. One, they can turn towards you. Two, they can turn away from you. Three, they can turn against you. So what do those mean? Turning towards you, let's say let's stick with the bird example because we'll talk about this again. Let's say you're like just looking out the window and your, let's say, husband or wife. So we'll stick with like a marriage situation, a romantic partner. Let's say in my case, my husband is sitting at the computer, just doing whatever. And I'm nearby and I see a pretty bird out the window. And I'm like, oh, look at that pretty cardinal. And so he has three choices. One, he could turn towards that. And what does that look like? It looks like, oh, like he literally, in this case, turns towards it and is like, oh, that is a really pretty cardinal. Huh. That's a, interesting time for them to be out here or whatever. So it can be simple. It could be that he just turns towards the cardinal literally and is like, oh, that is really pretty. That's it. He could leave it at that. Or it could become more. He could comment on it more. He could ask me a question about it, whatever. He can show interest, basically. Turning away is basically either he might say nothing. He might just like just yes me, essentially. Basically he's just sort of ignoring or just like not making much of it, not showing interest in it. Okay. Turning against is, yes, the cardinal, trying to get this work done, can you please stop interrupting me? Okay. So I'm going to give a real life example. I have young kids. They're about 9 and almost 12. So for 12 years, almost, I have been hearing about, random stories, lots of questions, lately Minecraft or, just all these random things that I know nothing about, like all these things that, they watch or play in video games and all that sort of stuff. So right now, my son is really into drawing pictures from Five Nights at Freddy's. Okay. For any of you that are familiar with that, they are scary looking, creepy pictures. Okay. So he's really into drawing them right now. And every time he draws any little bit of it, he wants to show me. Right. So I have a few choices here. And let's say I'm trying to do work. I'm trying to focus on something, or I'm looking at something on my phone, and he comes over and he says, "Hey mom, I did the rest of the picture." I don't even know what they're called. They get weird names, but I did the rest of the picture. Do you want to see? Okay. Turning towards, oh yeah, let me see, and I literally turn towards him. I maybe make eye contact. I show interest. Okay. I'm like, oh, that's really good. You added a lot of detail. Okay. It takes 2 seconds. No big deal. Fine. Maybe I was distracted, but let's say I'm on my phone. I want to put down my phone. I want to turn towards him and say something. Okay. You didn't know you were getting parenting advice today, did you? So, and it's not to say I do it that way all the time. So let's say I'm turning away from him. Let's say I'm too distracted or I'm really into something and I'm just like, and maybe I don't put down my phone. I'm just like, yeah. And maybe I look at him very briefly. Okay. And I think it's always going to be the perception of the person. Does he feel like I turned towards him, or does he feel like I turned away from him there? Right. So if I just am like, yep, that's nice. He might feel like I turned away. Right. Turning against would be like, Ben, I can't keep looking at the pictures. Like, show me when you're done or something like that. So it's a very, I really cut him off and made him feel pretty terrible. And maybe he won't want to come to me again with his pictures because he feels like I don't care. Right. So those are some human examples of that. We're going to get into the dog examples. So studies have shown through the Gottman stuff, so I give them credit here. Happy couples turn towards their partners approximately 20 times more often than couples in distress during everyday non-conflict discussions, just during everyday stuff. Okay. Not during fights or arguments. That's huge. I mean, I think they showed, I think it was 80% of the time for successful couples, 80% of the time, the bids for connection were responded to by turning towards. And for unsuccessful couples, I think it was somewhere around 30 to 35% of the time. So that's a huge gap. That's a really big deal, right? So anyways, that's just an important piece of information for you to have. So turning towards might look like responding with attention, showing curiosity, asking for opinions. Kind of already went over this, got ahead of myself. And how is it received? It feels like I'm interested in you. I hear you. I understand you, or I'd like to try. I'm on your side. I'd like to help you, right? That's how it feels to be turned towards for most people. And then turning away from or turning against is often received as I'm not interested in you. I don't care. Your needs don't matter. Don't count on me. and I have other priorities. Okay. Not great for a relationship. So this can lead to what's called negative sentiment override. You'll understand the concept. You don't have to remember the word. Okay. So we do not want to get into negative sentiment override. I can't even say it too fast. This is the cycle that creates this bankruptcy feeling that we get with our dogs, where we're or other people in our lives, where we're kind of like, I just don't have anything left for this relationship. Like I can't think of anything positive, right? So this is why we really want to avoid this cycle. So here's what the cycle looks like. Somebody offers a bid for connection, right? And then that other somebody, the receiver, turns away from them or against them. Okay, so not turning towards, turning away, so ignoring or turning against, kind of like shutting them down. Okay, and then that leads to a social currency withdrawal. So withdrawal from that trust bank or withdrawal from that emotional bank. Okay, and then somebody might try to make another connection, and then you get turned away from again. And then there's another withdrawal. It's really hard to break that cycle because now you start thinking about all these negative things. This happens with our dogs all the time. When our dogs drive us crazy because they're teenagers, this is the prime time for it to happen. We get a puppy, they sleep a lot, they're really adorable, they're still kind of small, and then they grow. And they start getting into things and they're impulsive and they're novelty seekers and their mood is all over the place and they just need all the time. It's really easy to get into this negative sentiment override where you literally can't think of a good thing that your dog did that day. But I promise you, they did a lot of good things. Okay. You might not believe me now if you have a teenager at home, but they do. They do good things all the time. We just don't notice them, because we're stuck in this negative cycle. It's like we have this filter on where we can only see the negative things and we have a really hard time seeing the positive. That's a really dangerous place to be for your relationship with your dog. It's possible to get out of it, but it has to be one step at a time. Okay. And that's where often you're going to need some professional help to, help you see some of those opportunities for that. Okay. So big takeaway, we want to avoid this cycle. Okay. If you feel like you're in the cycle and you have not reached out for help yet, please do. And if you feel like you're in the cycle and you have reached out for help and you just need more, please speak up. Okay. So this was a big number. The same Gottman studies have shown that in people, there should be, for every one negative thing that happens in a relationship in everyday life, not during an argument, not during conflict, just everyday life, for every one negative thing, there should be 20 positive things that happen. Okay, that sounds like a lot, but if you think of the positives, reinforcing good behavior, attending to needs. Okay, so your dog needs to go outside, you take them outside. You just attended to a need. Your dog needs, your dog is hungry because he starts pacing, it's getting to that time, you feed him. Okay, you're attending. So you're attending all the time to needs. You're responding to bids in a positive way, turning towards them. Initiating play is another good way to have a positive thing. So you're not waiting for them to ask you, you're actually initiating it or initiating an interaction that they like. And narrating, Mr. Rogers style. So if you don't know what that is, basically it's those dogs have the perceptive ability of about a 3-year-old. So we can talk to them a lot more than we do. But if we keep our phrases short, concise, and consistent, they pick up on a lot of that stuff. So you don't have to speak in just cues. You don't have to use just one word at a time. You can speak in short phrases, and they understand a lot more than you might expect them to. So anytime you're narrating to them and letting them know what's about to happen or what just did happen, you're putting money in the bank, right? You're making deposits. Those are positive things for them. Even if the thing you say is you would think is negative, like, okay, it's time to get your nails done. Giving them that predictability and letting them know what's about to happen is still a positive. Okay. And then those negative things might be removing attention or freedom from them. So you call them inside the house, you close the door behind them. There's a negative. You just took away their freedom, right? But let's hope that you have way more positives in the bank than you have negatives. Verbal correction, telling them no, telling them they can't do something, telling them to stop, telling them anything like that. That's a verbal correction. Husbandry tasks, actually doing the nail trim if they don't like that, actually like taking away their agency and their freedom by holding them. Okay. Stopping behavior. So if they're playing with another dog and they're playing too rough and you interrupt that, you stop the behavior. Technically, that's a negative. That's a withdrawal from the bank, right? Asking for difficult tasks. So for asking for things that they don't know how to do yet, or that would be hard for them to do. So they see another dog, they're barking at the other dog, going crazy, emotional, all that good stuff. Well, not so good stuff, I guess, but all that stuff. And you ask them to, sit, and they're just trying to process all of that. And they're like, I cannot think about sitting right now. They might not be thinking about it in that many words, but the idea that you're even asking them for something difficult on top of the emotions they're already having counts as a negative. Okay. So again, I don't want you to get stuck on like, oh my gosh, there's so many negatives. I want you to see all of the positives within your day. And if you can't see the positives that you're giving your dog, that's where we need to ramp it up. Okay. You really need to grasp on to any positive thing that you see. Okay. You attend to their needs. Again, you respond to their bids. You initiate play, narrate to them. There's tons of places that you can be putting deposits in the bank. Okay. All right, so here's one way. I kind of teased into this, and I did post this on social media. I guess all of the social medias already, but I'm going to show this to you now in case you haven't seen it yet. So this is the bird test, which I actually just came across on, I think, TikTok or Instagram or something recently. And it was for people, and I wanted to try it with Willow. So I'm going to go ahead and play it for you because I do explain it in the video, and then you will have access to that going forward if you want to rewatch. Here we go. So if you haven't heard about the bird test, which is going viral all over the place, I'm going to just explain it to you. So the bird test is basically a concept to test your relationship with somebody to see if they are, tuning into you, showing interest in you, interested in, things that you are interested in. So the idea behind the bird test is you point out something relatively mundane, not too exciting in the real world stuff, like there's a bird out the window, right? And depending on how the other party responds to you, that tells you a lot about your relationship. Are they showing interest? Are they kind of blowing you off? Are they ignoring you, not even really listening? Or are they even, sort of rejecting you in a more obvious way where they're like, oh, stop interrupting me. Okay. So you can certainly do this with people, but I wanted to take it a step further and do it with my dog. I'm going to go over to the window, kind of call her over very subtly, and then look out the window. And I just want to see if she kind of joins me over there or if she kind of just goes off and does her own thing. So we'll see. Okay, here we go. Oh my gosh, Willow. Look at this bird. It's so nice. It's so pretty. Wow. So cool. Wow, look at it. Good girl. That was so nice. You came to see me, didn't you? I think she passed. Okay, so no, the next screen here. Doesn't want to let me over. Hang on, guys, bear with me here. Why won't you let me go to the next screen? I don't want to watch all those. Okay, do this, and then we'll present it again. Okay. So the concept behind that, again, was, will my dog attend to what I'm doing if I'm just kind of like pointing something out? Okay. And because she did, I wanted to make sure that I rewarded her for doing that, not because it's a transactional thing, but because I wanted to be like, hey, thanks for paying attention to me. That was amazing. And there's nothing actually there. And the funny thing is that about half an hour later, a UPS guy showed up and she barks, right? Because I think it spooked her because he came to the front door for once, which they don't usually do. And I think he slammed the door. And then he was talking to somebody else. He was talking very loud. He was doing all the things that a UPS guy probably shouldn't do if they're going to help you with your dog. And so she barked, kind of spooked, and then she came running over to me, which is exactly what I want her to do. That's ideal. And then I just kind of like basically responded to her bid in that case and was like, oh, what do we hear? Let's go check it out. So we went over, we looked out the window together. We saw the guy talking and I was just like, oh, it's just the UPS guy, just delivery. And then we moved on, right? I just put a huge deposit in her bank by responding to her need to let me know that there's something going on in the environment that's unusual, right? So this is something we've worked on for a while. She's 7. I've had her since she was 8 months. However, that pattern of like bark and then go to mom, that's what I'm looking for. Ideally, I'm okay with her barking, but I want her to come to me so that then I can respond to her bid. If we didn't have good social currency, she wouldn't come to me. She would just be at the window barking. And if you have a dog who does that, it doesn't mean that you don't have good social currency in other ways, but that's a place that you can build, right? That's something you can build on is, does she feel like she could get the support from you does your dog feel like your dog could get the support from you to be responsive to that sort of situation in an appropriate way? Are you going to step up for your dog? Okay. So there's always room to do that. All right. Next one is predictability. And I do talk a lot about predictability in the membership. So I'm not going to dig into this in a ton of detail because if you're interested in that and you're already a member, we can talk about that more. I can direct you to the right places to learn more about that. Especially we talked a lot about it last month when we talked about resilience. So if you haven't watched that yet, definitely watch that. That's a member only thing. If you're not in the membership and you're really interested in all of this stuff, then this is my time that I'll say, come on over to the membership and join us. Okay. So predictability. Why be predictable? Okay. Just a little summary. Predictability promotes safety and security, which is huge for building resilience and social currency. It provides and promotes clarity. Okay. If we're clear with our dogs about what's going to happen or, what's going on, then that's going to put some money in the bank. Okay. It offers reliability. They can rely on us to be predictable, right? They can rely on us to do the same thing the same way most of the time. And emotional stability. They don't have to have all these ups and downs and highs and lows because they're so worried about like, well, what's she going to do this time? Or which way is she going to come in the door? Which way is she going to leave? Okay, she's putting those shoes on. This is weird. I've never seen those shoes before. This is unusual. So if we can offer some predictability of, Mr. Rogers style narrating, like, okay, I'm going to work. That offers a predictability on top of those new shoes that we got, right? Okay, so those are some reasons to be predictability. You can add predictability by using those predictor cues, okay, which is just kind of like letting them know what you're about to do before you do it, okay? Be predictable that way. Keep a routine, okay, which talked about a second ago. Creating patterns. So anytime you can create a pattern around something, the feeding pattern, the it's time to go outside pattern, the I'm going to work pattern, the it's you're going to come for a ride in the car pattern, we're going to the vet pattern. Like all of these patterns, we're going down the basement stairs, which I know are a little scary for you. So let's create a pattern for that. Okay. At the top of the stairs, this happens. Bottom of the stairs, this awesome thing happens. In between is hard, but we have a pattern around it. It makes it much more predictable. And then responding consistently. Okay. So I think a classic example of this might be in parenting or even in like an abusive relationship, emotionally abusive relationship, or physically, where, you may not know how your husband or wife is going to feel when they come home and walk in the door and you're a little nervous. Or if, your kids come up to you and they're like, I don't know what kind of mood mom's in today, but maybe I'll ask her this question. If I respond really inconsistently and unpredictably, it's going to be much harder for my kids to feel like they can approach me about something. Again, way easier said than done. We have our own stuff going on, right? We have our own emotions to deal with, but these are things to work towards. Okay, and then the last one is support. So we'll get into sort of how you can support your dog to help them out. And what I'm going to use in this case is the concept of the love languages. And if you don't know about love languages, I highly recommend that you look into it. However, I'll give you just a really quick summary. Basically, a love language is the language we speak in order to feel loved. Okay. So again, I'll use husband-wife scenario, or any sort of any relationship, but definitely I'll use romantic partner relationship now. So let's say I say, I want to show my husband that I love him. So I go to the store, I see something that I think he'd like, I pick it up, it's a gift, right? Maybe I love receiving gifts. So therefore I think that this is a way that I can show him that I love him, right? Now my husband, and this is true, doesn't love receiving gifts. It's not his favorite thing. So for him, he might prefer an act of service. He might prefer that I like clean up things in the garage, right? Or just make things more tidy around the house or something. So that might be how he would receive love, but I'm speaking a different language. So it's like we're speaking two different languages. He's speaking the acts of service language. That's what he would like, to feel loved. I'm speaking the gifts language. So where can we meet? So you need to know the love language of the other person or the dog. So dogs are kind of, some of them have really clear love languages. Other ones are just, they like a little bit of everything at certain times. So that's where you really get to know your dog. So physical touch, these are love languages of people, and also we can apply them to the dogs. So physical touch, quality time, words of affirmation, acts of service, and gifts. Okay. So physical touch for our dogs might look like cuddling with them, giving them a nice little belly rub, giving them a gentle massage, something like that. Okay, so any sort of, and this one's pretty clear, but any sort of physical touch that they enjoy. Okay, so a dog might like physical touch to the belly or the chest, but they might not like physical touch to the ears, right? Or the face. Or a dog might like physical touch at home when they're not busy and distracted, but they might not like physical touch when they're out and about in the real world, public life, right? Just like my kids, if I hug my son who's 9 now in any sort of a public situation, he's like, "Oh, Mom, stop." But he's very huggable at home. Okay. So it's just, there can be different context situations. So some pro tips for you, follow the 3-second rule, 3 to 5 seconds, depending on your dog, which is you can pet them and then stop after 3 to 5 seconds, see what they do. If they come back for more, great, we'll pet you some more. If they don't, great, we leave them alone. Okay. So it allows them some choice in between, because some dogs sometimes feel stuck when you're touching them. Inviting your dog to you also puts a nice deposit in the bank, as opposed to going to them, because they might not be ready. So inviting them over is asking them if they're ready for interaction, and always respect the no. So if they walk away after you stop petting them, great, respect that. If you ask them if they want to, come over, you want to come see me. I'll do that a lot with Willow. Is like, come see me. And I'll do this little wiggly hand thing. And she's like, I'm doing something else. I'm like, okay, fine. I'm not going to then go chase her down and go pet her. Okay. So always respect the no. All right. Quality time. That looks like exploring together, playing together, relaxing together, learning together, doing stuff together. Okay, so you're just spending quality time with each other. So some pro tips for you there: experiment often. Some dogs like to do different things together. So they might not like to play tug together, but they might like to play ball. Or they might not like to play tug, but they like to learn new tricks. Okay. And on a good note, I always try to not push my dog so far into the quality time that she's like, okay, I'm good. So if you're learning together, trying to teach them something, try to stop before they're over it or before they feel frustrated. And then you can go back for more later. And then always opt out as needed. Meaning if you're playing together and things are getting a little too intense and crazy, okay, we're going to just call it now. That was fun while it lasted. If you're exploring together and you see someone down the street who you think is not going to be a good fit to run into, then, okay, we're going to opt out here. We're going to go home a little early. Okay. We're going to turn around or go back to the car. So you can always opt out as needed, and so can your dog. Words of affirmation might be talking to them in a gentle tone. Some dogs are very sensitive to your tone of voice. So just making sure that you're using a nice gentle tone with some dogs. Narrating often. Some dogs appreciate that Mr. Rogers style narration more than others. I think all of them appreciate it, but some really need it. And then some just appreciate it. Okay. And then praise and encourage. Some dogs really love to be told that they're a good girl or good boy. Like sometimes I can be on a walk with a client's dog and I'm just talking to them the whole time. And every once in a while, I'm giving them a reinforcer, a treat. But my main reinforcer is actually talking to them and telling them how great they are, and talk about all those bids for attention being, nice and turned towards them. So they're getting good attention from me, and I'm getting lots of positives put into the bank. So be careful with your tone. That matters a lot to dogs. Use short and sweet phrases, Mr. Rogers style, and be very clear with what you're saying or asking of your dog. Okay, clarity is very important. Acts of service might be offering them comfortable bedding. Okay. Some clients' dogs, I'll see that, the dog might be lying down. Actually, this is a good example. This is my aunt's dog, who I was just spent some time with when I was on vacation. And she doesn't have any beds at the house that she's at. She will sometimes sneak up on the couch. I think she does overheat pretty quickly. So this was in Florida. So I don't think she necessarily needed a bed, but I think if we had provided one, I would have been interested to see, if she chose that more often than my aunt might have thought that she would choose that. So sometimes offering them more comfort or more traction, that's a really important one too. Okay. So offering our dogs, traction so that they're not feeling like they're slipping and sliding everywhere. Going on exploratory walks versus exercise walks. Sometimes we get stuck on like, okay, well, I wanted to get my mile walk in today, so we're going to go on our exercise walk, but my dog is like pulling the whole time or doesn't want to go or whatever. Let the exercise walks go. Save those for just you. You'll get there probably eventually with your dog, and make them exploratory ones. Go at your dog's pace. I did this with, again, this dog when I was in Florida last week with her. I had to check myself because I was like, nope, I want to trying to get some exercise, Gracie. Keep moving. Let's keep going. And I really had to check myself and be like, you know what? She doesn't want to do this. She doesn't want to go at the same pace that I want to go at. She wants to stop and sniff all the time. So I had to take my exercise walks separately. And then we just went on exploring walks together. So sometimes even for somebody who's been in this profession for so long and knows this stuff, I have to check myself too, which I did there. And step up for them when needed. So step in front of them. So literally stepping up, or go check them out. Go check out what's going on at the window, like I was talking about before. So advocate for your dog, remain consistent, and always try to provide as much agency and choice as you possibly can. Long leashes are really great for that. And then the last one is gifts. So some dogs really appreciate novel treats and novel toys. A new tug toy that they haven't seen before, a new puzzle toy, access to new playmates. They like to meet new friends. I would consider that to be a gift because you are bringing them to meet the new friends, or you are arranging that for them. So you could see where there'd be a little overlap, but I'd consider that to be a gift also. So rotate some of their favorite things, watch their body language, and introduce novelty into their life. A lot of dogs, especially teenagers, really appreciate novelty. So rotate those toys and every so often introduce a new one. Okay, so that is it for today. I'm going to show you this one last video and then just go over a couple member things. So what we talked about today, again, building social currency, exploring the deposits and withdrawals. I would love if you would share your takeaway from this talk, anything in particular that you thought was really helpful or that you didn't know about. I'd love to know if you were aware of the Gottman stuff, because I find it really fascinating. And I don't know if it's just me and I'm really into all that stuff, or if it's kind of general knowledge out there. I know people who I've asked, clients who I've asked individually, were not aware of it. So I think it might be new information for most of you who are not in the psychology or teaching sort of educational atmosphere of work. And then if you are in the membership, we will continue this conversation in the Facebook group, the member only Facebook group. And if you're not in the membership, again, I invite you in. Come join us. I was going to show you this video real quick. So this is Gracie, the golden that I spent that time with. And some of you might have already seen this on social media. It's a short one. So I thought this was just a funny picture. She would lay like that at night, I think just cooling down, using the wall as like a perch. So I think it's just really important to keep in mind that our dogs need us for our relationship and our bonding and our trust. They need to be able to trust us. They need that social currency, okay? Because this is a really hard world for them to be living in, especially the modern world for dogs. It's very different than what they were actually bred for. So they really need us to help get those needs met, right? So if you have a dog who counter surfs, that might be a sign that you have a dog who needs to do more scavenging in their life. If you have a dog who pulls on a 6-foot leash, that might be a sign that you need to give your dog a 20-foot leash and let them explore more, because their nose is going a mile a minute, right? So things like that are really important to consider, and that will build the social currency. And your dog is not going to listen to you if you don't have good social currency. So isn't that kind of what it comes down to? So if you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat now or when you watch the replay, and I will go back and address them. So whether you're watching on YouTube or watching on Facebook, feel free to add your questions. And if you add them before this is over, I will address them here. Otherwise, I'll get back to them later. Members, this is your schedule for the rest of the month. Just as a reminder, so the lunch and learn we had today, drop-in office hours, if you want to come and ask some questions, are next Wednesday from 12:30 to 1. You can drop into the Zoom room and ask whatever questions you have. The breed group of the month is the gun dog group. So pretty soon I'll be releasing a video into the membership all about gun dogs and what makes them tick and why they act the way they do and all that stuff. And then we'll have our group Q&A Zoom call on Thursday, March 28th this time, because I have to go to my kid's concert at school. So we moved that one to Thursday. Hopefully you got that email. And if you're not in the membership, and actually this is the link, the kind of a new link that you can use to grab all of your stuff, student.misbehaviortraining.com. Make sure you're logged in if you are a member, and you'll be able to access everything. If you're not a member, this link won't work for you because it will tell you to become a member. And then if you're not a member and you're interested, I'll just leave this here while I wrap up. These are just some of the perks that come with the membership, kind of broken down, but there's lots more beyond this. So I just thought I would share that. And again, if you have any questions, let me know. June said, thank you, Laura. Very interesting, informative. Thank you for watching, June. I'm glad that you were able to join us. And Lori and Sue, I'm glad that you were here too. And hopefully you guys got some good new information from this. And I guess that's it. So have an awesome weekend, because I forgot it's Friday. We usually do these on Wednesdays. Today's Friday. So have a great weekend, you guys. And I will be back at it next week. Okay. All right. Talk soon. Bye.